Welcome to Hexagram 8, Holding Together. Now, this is a updated version. The previous version that I did, the audio wasn't great, and I was at a different stage in my life. And I think many people who subscribe to the I Ching and who are here to upgrade their own levels of consciousness will understand that when you've read something or spoken to something many years ago or even a month ago, who you become the day after can be completely different. Heck, I don't know about you, but I'm not the same person I was 5 minutes ago, let alone a year or two ago. So this version of Hexagram 8, what I'm going to be doing differently is in the edit, I'll be putting my contemplation first, and then I'll be reading the hexagram. So if you're watching this, you're now watching the edited version, and I'm going to continue with my contemplation. And if you want to skip ahead, if you just want to listen to Hexagram 8 from the I Ching, the Oracle of the Cosmic Way, you can click the link that'll jump you straight to that in the description. All right, and with that, let's begin. Thank you for joining me for the Hexagram 8 contemplations. And what I'm doing differently here, on review, what I've found is that many of my contemplations go for quite a long time. So what I did is I reviewed the whole hexagram. I went back through and notated all the things, wrote them down, jotted them down, all the things that I thought that I want to talk about. Then I found 5 of those that I think are really worthwhile unpacking and going into. And these will be the 5 that I'll be talking about. And in the 5, I'll also be including why I started to choose to do this, not just because of the overwhelm, but some other reasons as well. So if you're new to these, welcome to the new contemplations. I'm sure they'll be much more user-friendly, listener-friendly, observer-friendly than what I've been doing previously, and you'll get them done in a shorter time. So here we go. So the first one is holding on to a group or person to give you the truths of life. Now, my personal examples of this is hanging on to communities or inner work groups that I've helped to slingshot my way into my own understanding of myself, or finances, like joining masterminds. I remember being in a mentorship program for a number of years, and the community itself, I relied on them to give me feedback for who I really was. Also, subscribing to people like Tony Robbins, Bob Proctor, Alex Hormozi, Gary Vaynerchuk, Brené Brown, or any one of your other favorite people who have done a TED Talk, have a huge following, or somebody that you love listening to and receiving their advice from. It's very tempting to outsource our innermost truth to other people who might appear more successful, including successful in finance, successful in business, or successful in relationships. Many coaches, mentors, and manifesting gurus hold their hands up to know the answer to all of your problems. I've also been one of those people, and in my marketing, I do my best to distance myself from being your one and only true guide and giving people options. I love giving people options. You choose. You listen to your body. And if you're here for the I Ching, this particular version of the I Ching, the Oracle of the Cosmic Way, you will understand what you need to do instead, which includes connecting to your common senses. Okay, connecting to your common sense. That's where you discover the truths of life by trusting in the sage, by trusting in your own living signal that your whole body can receive and transmit. The next point, ego wanting versus natural desire. And my own personal experience of this, when I first started the inner work, was trying to change my partner. Right? This ego wanting of them to be easier for me to be with, control, get sex from, which led into even more personal development and those manifesting gurus, like I mentioned before, but how to manifest your dream life, how to create your dream relationship, how to get a six-figure income or six-figure monthly reoccurring revenue income, right? These ego-wanting things, to discern them from natural desire requires connection to your common senses. This will be a common theme. If you're familiar with this version of the I Ching, common senses, being able to be attuned to your body, is a big deal. In that, doubling back to the ego wanting versus natural desire, our life gets hijacked by ego wanting. Because as soon as we allow the ego to come between the relationship between us, the sage, us and God, it can put thoughts, visions, dreams in our psyche to derail us from what we're really here to do and be. It can be very tempting for the ego to point out to us when we see someone buying a new house or driving a new car that, well, why do they get that? I want that. I'd feel so much better if I had my own house and my own car, or if I was earning six-figure incomes every month, like my favorite guru or mentor or coach. So ego wanting hijacks our life. It pulls us out of the present moment and pulls us into fantasy. And the ego will feed off the chi that little thought insert did to us. Right? It puts in the hooks. The ego puts in the hooks. No blame. But that's just what it's here to do, is to help put those thoughts in our psyche so we can feed off them. And my own personal examples of this have been innumerous from different kinds of relationships. I'll be in a relationship. I want a relationship like that. In the job that I was working in, I want more money. I deserve more money. I'm a hard worker. I work harder than all these other people that work here. In my coaching business, why do they get all the engagement online? I need to do something else to get me more engagement online. Or why are they celebrating a six-figure month? I want to celebrate a six-figure month. What are they doing that's different, right? So we go into plan and strategize. We try and find more information to fulfill that ego's want. But in reality, we're disconnecting even further and further from our natural desire. So how do you know the difference between ego wanting and natural desire? Well, it's going to be unique to you, and you'll need to connect to your sexuality, okay? Who you really are at the core, how you feel when you are aroused, how your whole body feels when you are aroused. That's the beginning. That's the beginning of how to connect to your natural desire. And for me, it includes being able to center myself, and that's an exercise in this I Ching. Centering yourself, being able to feel that when that ego desire, that ego wanting starts to come in and it pulls you, it has this sensation that's quite unique just to ego wanting, where it kind of it pulls you and starts inserting thoughts, and then the thoughts get bigger, the fantasies get bigger. That's the moment when I know I need to center myself and be very present to what I have right now. Am I being grateful for what I have right now? Or am I wanting something that somebody else has? So what I do instead, when I can feel the ego wanting appear, is just centering myself. The third point, executing someone's true self. Now, what I love about Hexagram 8 here is how it details how to deal with that. And personal examples for me of executing someone's true self, I'll have friends or people in my friends lists who have not wanted to engage working with me, and then a couple of years later I see them just repeating the same mistakes again. And what I've found that I've done is just flip the tables, get really angry about that they haven't started working with me, that they have an issue that I could have helped them deal with and they could have avoided all this suffering, and I execute their true self. I put a spell on them, throw some poison darts in their general direction, thinking that they're never going to become their truest self. They're never going to want to have a look at the denial that's stopping them from living their greatest life or living their most themselves life. So what you need to do instead, and what I've been doing since I've been contemplating this hexagram, I've done it twice now, since contemplating this hexagram, is allowing them to be who they are inviting the helper of relationships to sever that tie, and then holding their true self as a possibility for their future. That's what you do in the past by internally flipping the table. And why would you do that? Why would I flip the tables? Because it hurts. You feel the rejection. I feel rejected when somebody doesn't want to work with me after they've been following me for a while, saying that they want to work with me, and then they don't pull the trigger. It hurts. So why haven't you done it yet? And then you hear the excuses, and the excuses may or may not be valid. But for me, in my journey, commitment to the self comes before the funds, the resources, the time comes in. That's just how it's worked for me up until now. The fourth point, just turning my page here. Life as an adversary. Nature as an adversary. So my fourth point here, and personal examples of how I've received life as adversarial, is how I saw nature. And this pulled me into the transhumanist movement, where I could see that nature is out to get you. Right? Nature is out to get you, like, through death, through disease, through viruses, etc., etc. So nature gets put in a denigrated and less than state where we try and overpower nature. We see nature as bad and trying to get rid of us. So we must conquer and rein in or put a leash on nature so we can control it. When we see life as adversarial, we are afraid of the unknown. I spoke about this on a podcast that I was a guest on yesterday, that when you see nature as adversarial, you can't enjoy life. You're afraid to step into the unknown. Fear of the unknown comes from seeing nature and life as adversarial. So what to do instead is you identify any seed phrases or statements that you have, or belief systems that you have, that see life as adversarial. You ask the sage to help you deprogram those, and then you go through the deprogramming procedure as advised by the I Ching. What you can also do is just be grateful for nature and know that us as an individual is part of nature. And would you call yourself adversarial? Like, there's been times when I've called myself adversarial, but for the most part, I don't think that I'm adversarial. So why would I taint the rest of nature as adversarial? So when we can not even forgive ourselves, but when we can just be with that life is not an adversary, it's working in our favor to help guide us into cosmic harmony, then our outlook on life and how we receive life shifts dramatically. And my fifth point here, before we dive into the hexagram, is consciousness-inappropriate information. If you have a background in psychology, you might be familiar with the term age-inappropriate information. I've done posts about this on Facebook, particularly when an adult is given a child information that throws them into an existential anxiety. There's a lot of children today who have been raised with the fear of climate change. I was raised with the fear of AIDS, the fear of being kidnapped. So when you give a child age-inappropriate information, they tend to grow up much faster than what their natural or organic development would be. What this hexagram 8 is speaking to is consciousness level inappropriate information. Can you see where I'm going here? Some people are not at a stage of consciousness that you can actually give them information that you may have received. It might go completely over their head, or they might see you as crazy and you will lose their counsel. And I've been here before. Here's some personal examples. I was doing a pre-qualifying session with someone. I knew that his father was incredibly aggressive. Instead of just holding on to that wisdom, I let it slip. I said, at some point your dad had a murderous intent towards you, and while he might not have consciously been trying to kill you, you may have felt that he was trying to kill you. That was a huge shock for him. And when I review that session, that pre-qualifying session, through the lens of this I Ching, that was a consciousness inappropriate information for his level of consciousness. Now, there are plenty of clients that I talk to right now who've signed the contract or paid the money where I can share that level of information with them, and it can unlock in them so much more understanding about their family system. So what we must do instead, and what I do instead for now, while I'm working with someone or talking to someone who I can see doesn't have the same level of consciousness of the information that I'm giving, is just shut my mouth. I just won't speak. There is no need to speak in that moment unless my common senses are telling me to speak in that moment. And sometimes the shock is important. I do not remember which hexagram it is that mentions shock. I think it's 51, but I'm not 100% sure. But shock is the cosmic way of bringing someone back into the present moment. So while for the most part, I know I can overshare, what I'm doing now, moving forward in my own personal examples and what to do next, is just learning how to shut my mouth when I can feel that consciousness wanting to flow through me and give this person something. Could be a little bit of ego in there too, that they're actually not prepared for. They don't have the bandwidth. They don't have the internal cosmology to be with the information that I'm giving them. With that, that's the 5 points. I hope you enjoyed the contemplation. That's it. Now we dive deep into hexagram 8. Testing, testing, testing. Holding together. The judgment. Holding together brings good fortune. Inquire of the oracle once again whether you possess sensitivity, duration, and perseverance. Then there is no blame. Those who are uncertain gradually join. Whoever comes too late meets with misfortune. This hexagram is used by the sage to explain the force of attraction that holds the invisible cosmic consciousness together with all its visible forms. See page 59 and 71, hexagrams 1 and 2 and their relationship to each other. This attraction is brought about and maintained through feeling. While the cosmic consciousness is capable of thinking, it is primarily a feeling consciousness that operates through the force of attraction between complementary aspects. The attraction between these aspects can be pictured as the two parts interpenetrating each other's consciousness, much like the weaving together of feelings of mutual sympathy. We are also informed that cosmic logic is not based on reasoning, but on feeling as its leading principle. Because cosmic laws are derived from feeling, they are called principles of harmony. As such, they operate more like principles of higher physics than man-made laws. The logic of the collective ego, by comparison, is supported by a reasoning that is purposely separated from feeling, so as to create the impression that abstract concepts are not related to experience can be true. Such concepts are based on premises that form spells when they are projected onto things. When the key premise of a belief is discovered and consciously recognized as false, the spell is broken. I'll read that line again. When the key premise of a belief is discovered and consciously recognized as false, the spell is broken. This hexagram shows that the basis for a person's unity with the cosmos, and therefore also with others, is holding together with the sage in his presence, since the sage enables him to connect with his inner truth through his feelings. Receiving this hexagram can indicate that a person has replaced holding together with the sage by holding to fixed beliefs or customs. This has separated him from his unity with the cosmos. He is counselled to find the beliefs or customs in question with the help of the RTCM and rid himself of them. It may be the belief that people need to hold to something outside themselves, as expressed in the phrase, "everyone needs a belief." Or the person is holding to a human leader or group to provide him with the truths of life. Or he may be holding to his family, friends, or mate when his inner truth tells him he needs to go his own way, especially inward. Such a person needs to rid himself of mistaken ideas or beliefs that separate him from his inner truth. Related to the above is a false image a person may have of unity and harmony with another. The image of a single circle in which both reside. This image fails to respect the boundaries that mark each person's intrinsic space. All unity between two people is made possible by their recognizing and respecting each other's boundaries. This being the prerequisite, the sage then makes their harmonious connection possible. An image of a harmonious relationship between two people is the horizontal figure 8. The two circles of the 8 represent the respective spaces of each person. It is their seeing the true self in each other that enables them to connect. The point at which their two circles connect is love, mutual respect. The perseverance indicated in the judgment counsels the person to ask himself whether he has firmly established his loyalty to his inner truth. Then his relations with others are intrinsic, based on the natural force of attraction. Loyalty to his inner truth brings him into contact with those who are likewise firmly centered within themselves. Holding together, in the sense of being centered within, occurs when a person's true self is the sovereign within, the sole authorizer of the validity of his feelings. The person who is thus sovereign over himself holds together with the cosmos and receives from it chi energy and help, while contributing back to it his feelings and unique experiences. Because he then contributes to the cosmic evolution, he never needs to ask, "What is my purpose?" because he is all the while fulfilling it. A person gives away his self-authorizing ability when he adopts any self-images, ego, either to conform to or rebel against the collective ego. Both kinds of self-images keep him within the net of the collective ego and its system of opposites, because he keeps looking to it for its approval or disapproval. This keeps the collective ego invigorated, since it lives off the chi energy it can gather from people's dependence on it. The collective ego achieves this controlling role in a person's life through its promotion of the idea that the source of all evil lies in humans' animal nature, and that it is also the source of all human inadequacies and guilt. It also proposes that without its control and supervision, humans would supposedly run wild, creating chaos. People who accede to this idea are tricked into believing that without authorization by the collective ego, their lives would have no meaning, and without its conditioning, they would become the victims of their worst tendencies and drives. A person often receives this hexagram when he is questioning whether his life has meaning. He may have accepted the mistaken idea that his life has meaning only when it is directed to fulfilling tasks authorized by the collective ego, or he may believe that his life has no particular meaning, or that its meaning is known to someone or something outside himself. Such ideas keep him from seeing that the purpose of his life is to fulfill his uniqueness by simply being himself. Spells connected with this hexagram contain seed phrases such as, "There is no purpose in my life," or "I need to find the purpose in my life." These phrases lead to false conclusions such as, "Life has no purpose." "Accomplishments are what give life its meaning." "You are nobody unless you have done something important." "The way you influence others tells your life's meaning." "He, she is a nobody," or "no good." "He, she is an unworthy member of society." I just want to highlight those because they'll be in my contemplations. Such spells imprison helpers that would otherwise help the person fulfill his life's purpose. See page 546, What are Projections, Spells, and Poison Arrows? The traditional interpretation of this hexagram is given by Wilhelm as follows. The central power of a social organisation must see to it that every member believes that his true interest lies in holding together with it. According to this formula, it is the duty of organisations to give their members the impression that they benefit by holding together with the organisation. The result of this advice is that the individual places his centre outside himself, thus becomes dependent on the organisations of society rather than on his relationship with the invisible world. It is in this manner that the collective ego appropriates the individual's sovereignty. The cosmic meaning of holding together has to do with holding together with the sage as one's inner guide. A person may receive this hexagram when he is considering ideas and beliefs others propose, which would draw him away from the sage or trivialize what the sage has said. In this case, the person is no longer sensitive to the sage and thus brings harm to the relationship. This is the meaning of inquire of the oracle whether you possess sensitivity. It also may refer to the person's retaining an analytical, suspicious, and aloof approach to the I Ching, and therefore is unfeeling toward the sage, or he may be expecting the oracle to authorize his mistaken views. As to asking himself whether he has duration, this can refer to a person's having falsely attributed the cosmic help he has received to chance circumstances. When accomplishments achieved in partnership with the sage are thus appropriated by the ego, they gradually fade into insignificance. What makes success endure is the person's retaining his conscientiousness and modesty after having been helped to achieve his goals. Only then is there no blame. The phrase, "those who are uncertain gradually join," refers to the person who is willing to put aside his distrust. This enables him gradually to have the experiences that will show the sage's counsel to be true and trustworthy. Whoever comes too late meets with misfortune refers to the person who allows the ego to completely take over his personality. He thereby puts all his dependence on the collective ego. Such a person cannot receive any benefit from the oracle. Another problem is created by the ego's wanting. Ego wanting is not the same as the natural desire a person has when he wishes to be with his beloved, or to be protected, or to be nourished. It is a desire to get things or produce results on terms dictated by the ego. These terms contain mental considerations, such as thinking he has the right to get what he wants. The person who engages in this kind of wanting imposes his ego demands on every hexagram and line of the I Ching, giving them a wrong interpretation. Wanting is also connected with wondering and worrying, especially when what the ego wants is not forthcoming. This hexagram is stating that the cosmos gives its gifts only through the force of attraction. Attraction is lacking when the person stands, as it were, with his hands stretched out in expectation of cosmic gifts. The cosmos does not give its gifts in any situation in which a person is willing to throw away his dignity. Just want to highlight throw away his dignity. That's nuanced. Holding together also refers to refraining from dividing one's wholeness into mind and body. Traditional versions of the I Ching follow the Confucian idea that humans have a higher and lower bodily nature. The Confucians further assumed that evil is due to humans' lower or animal nature. The sage makes us aware that this idea violates the cosmic principle of the equality of all aspects of the cosmos. No one thing is higher or better than another. Furthermore, striving and applying disciplines to develop into something higher only separate a person more and more from his true self, which is by nature united with the cosmos. The collective ego binds people to its institutions through instilling in them ideas of guilt, insufficiency of self, fear, and self-doubt, whereas the cosmos holds all its aspects together through the principle of attraction and love. Here are the lines. Line 1. Hold to him in truth and loyalty. This is without blame. Truth, like a full earthen bowl, thus in the end, good fortune also comes from without. The cosmic consciousness holds all its aspects together through the attraction of what is harmonious and through inner truth. It does not hold anything to itself through force or threats. Holding in truth and loyalty counsels a person to hold to his inner truth. This loyalty brings him into harmony with himself, thus also with the cosmic whole. The full earthen bowl describes the abundance of chi energy that comes from being in touch with inner truth through one's feelings and the fact that they also attract good fortune from without. This way of relating harmoniously compares with the demanding and threatening way of the collective ego that insists on having the individual's trust and loyalty. The line seeks to make a person aware that he is under the influence of the mistaken ideas that he is born with original guilt and that he is by his nature insufficient in himself to cope with life. These ideas act in his psyche as poison arrows, making him feel guilty at any time he is not loyal to the collective ego and its values. So long as these ideas reside in his psyche, certain other spells cannot be permanently removed because guilt acts to reinstall them. Before a person can advance in developing his true self, he needs to free himself from these two poison arrows and also of the threats by which they were installed. See page 546, What are Spells and Broken Arrows? Sorry, Poison Arrows, not the movie. Some seed phrases addressed by this line include commandments that a person must do something and imply or else. This line can also concern pacts a person has made to be loyal to another or to something outside himself. In cosmic terms, all pacts and promises are incorrect, because a person is meant to hold to another only as long as it corresponds to his inner truth. Such pacts need to be treated as spells or poison arrows. Just going to highlight that. Line 2. Hold to him inwardly. This line is counsel for a person to hold to his inner truth and common sense. It also addresses a desire to end a relationship through giving up on another as hopeless. Doing this is what the I Ching calls executing the other's true self. It also has the effect of locking the person in his objectionable behaviour by putting a spell on him, and of starting an inner war that holds the two together in a cycle of mutual blame. Holding inwardly to him means not giving up on the person's true self, even though it may be correct to end the relationship. The correct way to end a relationship is to ask the helper of relationships to cut the inner connection. Otherwise, they will remain bound together inwardly. An unclosed inner connection is a channel through which blame, anger, envy, and other ego-driven emotions travel, creating projections, spells, and poison arrows. See page 538, Closing an Inner Connection. I did another video on that. Line 3. You hold together with the wrong people. This line points to a person's holding together with popular beliefs that are contrary to the cosmic principles of harmony. Many of these beliefs are common sayings which have slipped by default into his programming simply because he has not consciously rejected them or questioned their validity. Being in conflict with his common sense These phrases act as spells on one or another of his senses, with the result being that parts of his common sense are disabled. Receiving this line calls a person to find the particular saying that is active in his current situation and then rid himself of it. See page 550, Deprogramming Procedure. This line can also refer to ideas a person holds about himself or others that he or they are incapable of understanding something complex, or that the something is unknowable. Both rationales become an excuse to look at a human authority, be it a person or book, who seems to have found the answers. Holding to them shuts out the sage that is available to teach him all he needs to know. The idea that we need to possess a storehouse of knowledge in order to face life and to be protected against the future is similarly flawed, because it is based on the idea that life is an adversary. Such a slander on life creates a fate. The person who maintains his conscious connection with the sage receives the help and protection he needs during adversities. Fearing the unknown is based on the same assumption that life is an adversary and has the same consequences. This line also warns against holding together with another when there is no inner connection. This is obvious when the ego in one person is constantly in control. An inner connection can occur only between two people's true selves. Line 4. Hold to him outwardly also. Perseverance brings good fortune. Hold to him outwardly also counsels a person to hold to the helper of transformation rather than resorting to people or other external means to resolve the outer situation. A person may think that the helpers, being invisible, only handle intangible problems. This hexagram shows that the invisible and the visible hold together as one. The invisible helpers are available to help with tangible problems as well, because they create transformations where form and non-form interface in the realm of consciousness. A person's disbelief is the only thing that prevents the helpers from helping him with his outer problem. This line counsels such a person to look for those phrases and images that imply that the helpers can only operate in the way he imagines. Such ideas imprisons them. See page 540, Freeing Yourself from Seed Phrases and Images. Line 5. Manifestation of holding together. In the hunt, the king uses beaters on 3 sides only and forgoes game that runs off in front. The citizens need no warning. Good fortune. The image of the hunt is a metaphor for troubleshooting, rounding up and shooting mistaken ideas in a person's psyche that lead him into delusion. The delusions of concern are those that prevent him from holding together with his inner truth. Delusions have their origin in abstract truths that have no basis in life as it is experienced and felt. They come about when people search for the truth as an abstract thing, as when a person searches for the meaning of life. In looking for the truth, people tend to project their preconceived ideas upon the situation. The projection then acts to influence what they see, confirming to them what they have anticipated. Cosmic truths, by comparison, are revealed to the person who keeps his connection open to the cosmic consciousness, first by being conscious of its presence, and second by staying in touch with his feelings and inner senses. Cosmic truths come in handholds of insight that are gained precisely when the person's awareness is tuned in, as described. This cannot occur so long as he is trying to force his views upon the situation. Cosmic truths are also to be found through his dedicated search to find and rid himself of the preconceived ideas that block access to these insights. The search, which is also a hunt to kill the mistaken ideas found by saying the inner no to them, can best be described as a search for the untruths, or half-truths that have come down from the collective ego as ancient wisdom, and which have generally been surrounded by taboos to ensure they will not be questioned. It needs to be said that societal conditioning disables and demonizes the senses and the feelings by regarding them as insignificant or inferior, since they are part of humans' animal nature. So long as they are in this blocked condition, they are incomplete and uncoordinated, and they therefore cannot fulfill their true function of revealing cosmic truths until they are freed. Receiving this line tells a person that he needs to make a hunt for the untruths that are blocking his access to his inner truth. These untruths are demonic elements within the psyche that keep him held in the enclosure, which is formed by a combination of spells, as described below. The three sides of the enclosure mentioned in the line can represent the three primary spells put on a person that limit the way he experiences his life, and that are giving rise to the false conclusions he is drawing from those experiences. The first spell, a poison arrow, is the idea that humans' animal nature, represented by the game mentioned, is the source of evil. The enclosure is the trap that has been set to kill his animal nature. I'm going to highlight that. The second spell, also a poison arrow, is the guilt spell that accompanies the first idea that having an animal nature marks humans with an inextinguishable stain or fault that exists so long as a person is connected with his body. I'm going to highlight that one. The third spell is created by the idea that humans are born into life without help. This spell separates the person from the cosmos, which can provide the help for everything he needs. In this metaphor, the king represents either the collective ego, which would like to appear as fatherly, generous, and benevolent to the person who subjects himself to its control and allows his animal nature to be killed, or the sage. In the second meaning, the line indicates that the person has allowed the sage to guide his hunt for the demonic elements. Only then do the citizens, helpers that have been previously warned away by the poison arrows and spell mentioned, need no warning because they are now being freed of these harmful elements. The open fourth side tells the person caught in the enclosure that he can always leave it by looking within rather than without, and by asking the sage for help. His reward is his inner freedom and his reunification with the cosmic whole. I'm going to highlight that, inner freedom. Half-truths and untruths related to the above spells and poison arrows are that the meaning of life is to be found in developing one's spiritual or higher nature, that truth is to be found through suppressing, disciplining, or overcoming one's bodily nature and its feelings, that one's feelings stand in the way of perceiving the truth, that only by getting free of one's feelings can one perceive the truth objectively. See page 550, Deprogramming Procedure. Manifestation of holding together has two meanings. First, it refers to the positive consequences of a person's holding to his inner truth and thus drawing the helpers into his life. It can also refer to people who are holding together in a group we in order to show unity and create allegiances. However, since these allegiances exclude the helpers of the invisible world, they create a fate. Moreover, their unity, as indicated, is nothing but a show, and therefore has no substance. A further problem caused by commitment to a group we is that it blocks the person's connection with his inner truth. To free himself from the negative consequences of participating in a group we, the person needs to rid himself of all ideas that present merging his identity and purposes with a group as a benefit. This line can also refer to a situation in which one person confides his problems to another, asking for his counsel. The game in the enclosure represents demonic elements the person exposes freely and is willing to get rid of. This line informs the psychological counselor that he should discuss only the elements exposed and not address other problems that are not openly presented. Doing so would only cause suspicion and distrust and create a fate for the counselor. I'm going to highlight that one. Line 6. He finds no head for holding together misfortune. Holding together, here as elsewhere, refers to being within the cosmic unity, as opposed to being separated from it. His holding together occurs through feeling, which involves the person's whole self, including his common sense, which is a consensus of all his senses. No head for holding together is a metaphor for a person's having allowed some part of his perceptive abilities to be blocked, so that he no longer is able to perceive the inner truth of things. So I want to highlight that. A complete perception is drawn from what we feel through our combined inner and outer senses. It is then compared with our inner truth to give a correct perception. These senses include far more than outer seeing and hearing. Our senses of seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, and touching operate both literally and figuratively, so that we not only smell odours, for example, we also smell intentions and evil thoughts in people. Things that contradict our inner truth likewise leave us with a bad taste. However, as we have been taught to disregard our inner senses, we have shut them off. Without access to them, we figuratively have no head for perceiving reality in its cosmic sense. See page 571, Glossary, The Senses. The collective ego, by comparison, would tell us that our ability to perceive the truth is dependent only on what we can see and hear, the two frontal lobes being necessary to process what is seen and heard, and therefore viewed as superior to other parts of the brain, especially those parts that register and interpret feelings. Receiving this line is to make a person aware that he has allowed thinking to replace feeling. This mistake has occurred through his accepting the flattery that it is his rational and imagining abilities that make him brilliant and superior to the other creatures of creation. He does not suspect, therefore, that his continued reliance on what he thinks of as his mind, contrivance, cleverness, intellectualism, and mental structures keep him locked in the fate he has created. The remedy is to rid himself of the disdain he has learned for his senses and to ask the helpers to help him to return to his true nature. See also line 5 for the spells that are behind his disdain. This line also calls attention to the fact that if a person allows himself to remain separated from his feeling consciousness for too long in his life, his inner light, Chi, will become extinguished. Then he becomes a walking dead person. In this case, the head he lacks is his connection with the cosmic whole. See page 574, Glossary, Walking Dead Person. No head for holding together can also be saying that a spell has been broken because the ringleaders, the key phrases of the spell, have been killed. As a consequence, the rational logic that has held the components of the spell together has fallen apart, bringing good fortune rather than the misfortune mentioned.